Hey everybody, let me jump into camera shot here. So this is the official first video of my Arctic Quest trip, leaving here, Riverside, Southern California, all the way up to the Arctic Ocean. Hopefully put my foot in the Arctic Ocean at Purdue Bay. My buddy Greg is going with me. Today is August 1st. And today what I'm going to talk about is actually some of the prep work that I think everyone should do, regardless of mode of automobile travel or kind of like destination. So some of this is going to be generic, no matter who you are or how you're traveling up to the Arctic Circle. The other part of it, I'm going to be talking about the KLR tomorrow. So today's August 1st. We're actually getting on the road 3 o'clock in the morning on Sunday, which is what, August 3rd. Nope, take that back. Today's Thursday the 1st, Friday the 2nd, Saturday is the 3rd. So Sunday morning, which is the 4th, at 3 a.m. we're going to be pulling out of here. Once again, my buddy Greg is riding with me. He's on an Africa Twin. I'm going to jump back on the other side of the camera and do some close-up stuff in a bit. But once again, this is all about the preparation, research, looking into what to expect, and some of the things that you may want to get ahead of time. Tomorrow, I'll talk more about the motorcycle tomorrow, which is Friday. Saturday, I'll do another video of what I'm wearing. Now, as I get behind the camera, you're going to see that this bike is geared up a lot. I don't have as much as I did when I did Route 66 back in 2018. It was a round trip, Santa Monica to Chicago and back, KLR Generation 1. I had more stuff on me, and there's always somebody, for whatever reason, says, oh, you bring too much. And my comment, because I watch other YouTube videos, my response to that is, there are people that if you just brought a toothbrush and a poncho, they would still think it's too much. But I will tell you this, no matter what you see or what I'm carrying, and I've gone through Route 66. I've taken this already from the Mexico border to the Canadian border during COVID, and I camped out that whole time. I carry whatever I want. I never made it anybody else's problem, and I've never had a problem with it, whether it be the weight, the balance, getting in and out of stuff. So if you're the type of rider that likes to go bare minimum, have at it, man. Do whatever you got to do. But I'll tell you one thing, if anything does happen mechanically, I'm taking care of myself with parts and tools on the side of the road at minimal expense. Let's move on. So first thing I'm going to talk about in my preparation here is actually where everyone kind of starts. Oh, by the way, this is going to be 4,000 miles one way, and we'll do it over 30 days. So approximately 8,000 miles round trip. But I'm going to start with talking about books and maps. If you're a AAA member, which I highly recommend, if you're a AAA member, is to get the two maps. I have a Canadian map of just Canada right here, but I don't think they make them anymore. But you want to get, so this is going from Riverside all the way up to Interstate 5, going through California, Oregon, Washington State, and then I'm jumping into Canada to the state of Alaska. So when you're looking at Canada, the first one you're going to want is the British Columbia, the BC map. So they're free if you're a member. It's kind of funny because it has AAA here and it has the Canadian logo there. So get that map for sure, the Alberta one on AAA, free. And the Alaska, ask for the Alaska map, because the Alaska will include the Northwest Canada, which is Yukon territory. So you're going to want the British Columbia one and ask for the Alaska one. And then you'll get the top of the map there. The other ones I got a specific map of Alaska, specifically for motorcycle riders. This will sound familiar. It's called the Butler maps. The Butler maps, I can talk about it maybe on my trip a little bit more. They have like different routes with different degrees of interest or challenging rides for what motorcyclists specifically would like to do in the state of Alaska. And that's about between 14. You can get this between 14 and 20 bucks off of Amazon. That was a charge. And then I got the National Geographic Canada West one. If you know the term topographical, where it has contour lines, elevations, it shows more of what the terrain features would be. Now, those of you that know me, you know my bike is kind of decked out like an Army bike. I was a cavalry scout. I did 4 years as a medic in the Army, 4 years as a cavalry scout. Then I did a bunch of years as a flight medic with the Air Force, finished my 34-year career as an air operator for the Air Force. So a lot of things I'm deriving from when it comes to camping and motion and travel, kind of I pull from my military experience and try to apply that to this trip. But I was very heavily into maps as a medic, because we're calling medevac requests a lot. and as a cavalry scout doing land navigation. So I kind of gravitate to the topographical ones, and I really do like this Canadian West one. Although I'm probably not going to get a lot of use out of it, to be honest, but I just like having that with me. The books, there's 3 books, and I think you'll be covered. If you're going to do this, once again, whether it be, well, one specifically for motorcycle, there's 3 books that I ended up getting. One is the Alaska Highway Travel Guide, 202 Things. This author and this publication makes a great series. They also, on the back cover, they make one for Route 66, one specifically eastbound and one specifically westbound. I've done the round trip, and believe me, it's always good to know on Route 66 what you can do eastbound and westbound, because some things are kind of difficult to get to depending on what side of the freeway you're on. So let's get back on task. We're not doing Route 66. The funny thing is I saw somebody review this, and they're like, it was Amazon review. They said, I bought that Alaska book, and there's hardly any of Alaska in it. I bought a book and it says Alaska Highway. So if you're watching this for the first time, the Alaska Highway starts in the middle, kind of in the middle of Canada, British Columbia, at a place called Dawson Creek. It's called the Alaska Highway, and there's some history behind it that has to do right after the bombing of Pearl Harbor. I don't want to get into it right now. But the Alaska Highway is a highway that starts at Dawson Creek in British Columbia, and it does go to past Haines, I just forgot, Delta Junction, and that's about an hour out of Fairbanks, Alaska. So no, this isn't all about Alaska. It's the Alaska Highway. But a really good book. It reads really easy, has some really good points of reference, scan codes. It's very touristy oriented, but very user friendly. I would recommend this in a heartbeat. I may not bring it. I may just take pictures of what I want, put that on my phone. This one is specifically for motorcyclists. Now, this is about the state of Alaska, and it has to do, it says the Adventurous Motorcyclist Guide to Alaska, the state of Alaska, which has all the interesting routes. The Dalton, which I'll be doing, because I'm going to be doing the AlCan, or the Alaskan Canadian Highway that I just showed you that book. We'll be doing that, and then once we get into Fairbanks, I'll be staying at Fort Wainwright for a day to swap out some tires, and then we're doing the Dalton Highway and out to Purdue Bay. So, but this book has been great. I may carry this with me because it talks about all the different highways and it shows you what's along the way for that. Interesting enough, there's a lot of KLR shops in this one. Now I'm going to jump to a bigger book that I'm not bringing with me, but I think it's still a valuable resource tool. Probably most commonly known. It's called the Milepost. Now, what I have gathered from this is that it's pretty much, I don't want to misquote myself and say it's all inclusive of the whole country of Canada and all inclusive of the whole state of Alaska. But I will say this, every route that I've been looking at is covered in this book for both those areas, and they got some great maps. What I am going to be doing is that I'm going to get my little X-Acto blade, my little razor blade knife out, and I'm going to cut out some of these maps that are much more detailed than any of the maps I have here. I'm getting eaten by mosquitoes, and I'm going to talk about mosquitoes too in just a bit. So those are the maps. Those are the 3 books. I would say I'd put a link in the box, but I always forget to do that. So just know Milepost has great reviews. If you're on a motorcycle, actually, even if you're not on a motorcycle, if you're going to be on the road in a car, get that book. That one that said with the motorcyclist on it, I would consider that book. So that's maps and books. I would also consider looking at other people on the internet. Of course, mine, once I get on the road, mine's going to be geared towards the care and feeding and the lifestyle on the KLR, the Gen 1. So it'll be more motorcycle oriented. I do highly recommend, whatever your mode of travel is, that you look at other people's. And if you're going to automobile or RV, look at what the motorcyclists are doing. Because I'm telling you, I'm a motorcyclist, but I have gained a lot of knowledge from what the people in the RVs are doing. Mainly with that is because motorcyclists are more camp oriented, on the side of the road, tent, sleeping bag, and the motorcyclists I had followed show a lot of that and the type of equipment that you'd be needing when you're talking about some of the weather we're going to experience up there. So definitely look into the internet, look at YouTube. I will say this, whatever you read in a book, go to their website. There are quite a few things that these books are like 2023, 2024 publications, and Some of the things that they recommend, gas, food, lodging, are gone, closed down, kaput. So if you get a great idea, these are not 100% correct. Things are evolving all the time up in that area. So make sure you double check it if it's something that you want to do or see. And if it's a tourist site, make sure that you're going on a day, date, and time that museum or that venue will be open. That way you'll be prepared. You may not make all of them, similar to Route 66, but at least you'll know it ahead and maybe save some time by bypassing it. Money. Carry some U.S. cash and some Canadian cash. I'm a Bank of America customer. It was very easy. I think I'm carrying about 200 Canadian, and it cost me 160 something U.S. There are some places in Canada, even when I was in Europe, yes, credit cards are prevalent. You can use credit cards everywhere. They have ATM machines. I just don't like showing up into that country without having that foreign currency on me. So I recommend definitely doing that, is getting at least 200 Canadian. And if you need more, you can. So make sure you get some Canadian cash. Time zones. I got to show you something. Matter of fact, this might be a time to talk about time zones. Jumping on the other side of the camera. So one thing I found out is that I'm going to be in the Pacific time zone. Now, if you follow my little red dot, so my overall route, I'll do that first before I talk about time zones. I'm going to be coming up through here, and if you can see the yellow, this is our northbound trip. This is Dawson Creek is right here. That's where the AlCan, or the Alaska Highway, starts. It travels up through British Columbia. You enter into Yukon territory. Right in the vicinity here is called Watson Lake. And then we'll be traveling through, and it ends in, I said it earlier, well, there's Fairbanks. Delta Junction is where it ends. Now, once we get all the way up to Purdue Bay, on our return trip is what you see in blue. We're going to go down here to Denali, go to Mount Denali here, Denali National Park. We're cutting across this Highway 8 in Alaska. Coming up here, this is the Richardson Highway, and we're coming back up here in the blue. We're rejoining the same direction that we traveled. Then on Highway 37 is not a lot of restaurants, shops, and catchy things that you would find on the AlCan, but we're coming down here, and this has a lot of nature and a lot of camping here, and that's going to be more about the ride and seeing some wildlife. Coming down here, rejoining our original trip at Prince George, and then coming back down, and once we get to Cache Creek, I think it's called, we're doing this other, and this one shows up on the motorcycle route too as a good one to go. But talking about time zones, I'm starting the Pacific time zone. What I wanted to note to you guys is that right here, if you see where my dot is, you see those T's? That is the time zone border. And what I'm going to go from Pacific time just into Dawson Creek. I'm going to end up in Mountain Time just for a night, and then that next day we're back in Pacific time, and then we cross into Yukon time or Alaska time right at the border of Canada and Alaska. I cross into another time zone. So I know it's only an hour, but I think time zone is something good to be aware of as you cross into Dawson Creek. If you're coming from Washington State, you're going to have to go back a time zone and jump right back out of it. So that's that. One thing I was going to say about, I'm going to be going up on the 70/30 tires, but once I get to Fairbanks, I'm shipping these tires up via UPS. These are more aggressive knobbies. I think I got a Dunlop 606. So there's two fronts and there's a rear. A full set is going to be going on my bike, and one front's going to be going on my buddy's Africa Twin. And if where I didn't prepare soon enough, I could have shipped these up a lot cheaper using Alaska Air Cargo, either out of LAX or SeaTac to Fairbanks, and then picking them up there. But I missed the window of opportunity for that, so I'm actually going to have to be paying more to ship them via UPS. Now, if you ship them cargo through Alaska, they will hold them for a few days until they start charging you some storage fees. But what I'm doing for motorcyclists that may know of an organization called Bunka Biker, or people that will house motorcyclists as we travel through their area, I found a guy in Fairbanks, and he's going to receive them for me via UPS, and hold them for us until we pick them up when we get up there, because I really wanted these aggressive knobbies for the Dalton, and that one Highway 8 that's down by Denali is going to be another challenging road. But by the time I get back to Whitehorse, Canada, I'm going to swap them back out and go for some 70-30 more roadworthy tires. So once again, I'll be fuel. I ended up, so I have an extra. Number one, the KLR has a 6-gallon fuel tank, and it's good to do some math between either gas stations using liters, gas stations, and what you're familiar with, gallons. Besides that 6-gallon tank, I have 1.5 gallons on a Rotopack here, and then I'll do an individual review on this. I've already used it once to test it. I love this thing. It's the Giant Loop gas bladder. It's I got the 3-gallon one. I'm going to talk more about that. Definitely, if you are doing the Dalton between Coldfoot and Deadhorse, you are going to need something like this or one of these. And I'll talk more about that in product review later on. Let's see where else I got going on. Car insurance. Make sure that I called Geico. I have Geico, and I made sure that everything was good to go for my insurance going into Canada, and what numbers I would call and what would I do in the event that I get into an accident in Canada. So I already had that conversation with Geico, so I already have that in my little notepad. Also, Canada, when you enter, they may ask for your binder, or there's another term for it, but it basically shows the breakdown of what coverages you do have, not just your insurance card. So I would recommend printing that out. Declaration page, maybe it's called, but you should know. It just shows you what your liability and all that other stuff, what you're covered at. Going back to those maps with the AAA, I also called my AAA company. I told them, and they said, nope, if anything happens, you call that 800 number just like you would here, and you're fully covered in Alaska. Jumping to medical insurance, I called my medical insurance company. I'm a veteran, so I have VA benefits, but I'm also under TRICARE. So I called TRICARE, and TRICARE told me what I would need to do. I didn't really get into dental at all. What I did do is that I just made sure I went to see the dentist before I went on a long trip. Dental is just can be a huge interruption. So I'm gone for 30 days on a motorcycle. If you have any questions about your dental health, get that addressed before you go. The other thing too, I was going to mention, I'll jump on the other side of the camera for this one, is I've had this policy before. So this REACH policy, I got an international one because the regular one only covers the lower 48. International covers all around the world, and then it also covers actually, Alaska and Hawaii. Now what this is, you should look it up. Well, actually, what you want to look up is Air Med Care. That is the actual overall company. But what this is a policy I got for, I think, for $350 for 12 months. And what it will do is if something happens where a helicopter has to take me out of the trauma area to a hospital, I'm covered via helicopter. And if I'm in that trauma hospital for more than a week, or in a hospital for more than a week, and I'm more than 100 miles away from home, there's a fixed wing policy that my wife can call and saying, hey, I don't want them in Fairbanks, I want them in Riverside at Loma Linda, and they will fixed wing me, fly me home. It's kind of funny because that's the kind of job I did when I was an Air Force flight medic. I can talk more about that later if you have any questions. Maybe I'll try to find a link in it for that. And the funny thing is, there's a lot of these companies, they give you a map of where their helicopters are located, and there's one in Fairbanks and there's one in Purdue Bay. So if anything happens to me on the Dalton, these guys will come pick me up and fly me out, and then I guess my motorcycle goes into a rec yard, a storage yard. Oh, and then that's my daughter Stefania made this sticker for me. So it says Adventure Vin and Greg. 2004 is the year we're doing it. I got some cardinal directions here and this rising sun. Greg's on the Africa Twin. I'm on the KLR 650, AlCan and Dalton Highway, Riverside, California to Deadhorse, Alaska, and then my YouTube channel there. So there'll be a lot more stickers being thrown on this by the time this road is done. And I already prepped it with the Canadian flag. Yes, and I do have my American flag up high. So let me get back on to some of the other prep work I did. Excuse the messy garage. Make sure that you're familiar with kilometers and meters, also liters versus gallons, and Fahrenheit versus Celsius. Just kind of brush up on that. Obviously, you're buying your gas per liter as far as the cost goes. So, and your miles. So when I did my mapping, I would while I'm in Canada, I clock the kilometers and the miles on my little cheat sheet, so I know what my gas capacity range would be, but I also know the kilometers as I'm visually seeing them on the road. The interesting thing about the AlCan, it was originally made with mile markers, and a lot of things use the mile that we use here historically, but all the governmental highway post signs are back in kilometers now. But you will hear terms like mile 0, mile 34, the lodge at mile 96. Those are actually U.S. statute miles that we use, and they just use them now for historical purposes, and they didn't give up their address. Their addresses are still done by whatever mile on that road it is. The address remained the same. Medical insurance, dental, glasses. If you have eyeglasses, I made this mistake once where I only brought one pair of prescription glasses. Bring two, and if one can be either a sunglass prescription or what's it called, photochromic or photo, the ones that change the transitions, make sure you have two pairs of prescription eyeglasses. I'm gonna put this down. It's gonna kill my arm. I don't even know where I had it before. I don't even know if I'm still gonna be in frame. Hold on, let me check something. All right. This is my DX5 helmet. That's brand new. That's a cool helmet. I'll talk about that later. Medication. If you're on any kind of medication, make sure you have enough to deal with, and make sure somebody at home has almost all this information I'm talking about. Make sure somebody else has your itinerary, has things at home, whatnot, your prescription numbers, but make sure you have plenty of supply. If you're running low, don't wait till the last minute to order it. Get more ahead of time. Cell phone and cell phone plans. There's a lot of dead areas in Alaska and Canada, and I did call. I'm an AT&T customer, and I'm covered as far as data sending and calling and stuff. I'm not going to have any kind of weird charges, so that's cool. And I won't have them in Alaska. But what is a concern is there's a lot of dead areas, so know that you're going to be out of cell phone coverage a lot more often than you would be in the lower 48. And for that, just like my Route 66 trip, just like when I went through the BDR on this bike, fully loaded, the BDR in the Mojave Desert in Southern California, I carry my Garmin Delorme GPS, which is not a satellite phone audibly, but it's a beacon, has an SOS alert on it, and it also can send and receive text messages. I used it when I was in Europe, and when I took the ferry from Barcelona to Morocco. I'm in the middle of the Mediterranean on a ferry boat, and I was able to text my wife just by using satellite. So no matter where you're at, as long as you have open sky to the satellites, you can communicate on those devices. I'll do an individual product review on that probably when I'm on the road. When you do your lodging and reservations, know this. This time of year is very, very popular. Fairbanks is extremely expensive, so we're going to opt. I'm actually camping out at Fort Richardson, Fort Wainwright in Fairbanks. So we got a tent site there. But not only is Fairbanks expensive, they get booked up very, very quick. So if this isn't something you plan a couple of days or even weeks, you got to look at it about a month earlier and see where these places are at. Most of them I booked through, because I use it most often, is hotels.com/Expedia. That way my wife has access and she can make any alterations to those reservations. And I always book reservations that have a cancellation up to 24 hours prior, and that it's reserve now, pay later. So I want a 24-hour cancellation, full refund, and I also want reserve now, pay later. That way, if we have to adjust the trip and we at least know 24 hours in advance, which might happen due to weather, we can make those adjustments, and I can just call my wife. She could do it while she's at a desk, and I can call on my Senna device here, but she can actually manipulate all that while I have my hands on the controls. Gas stations are few and far between in Canada, and kind of in Alaska too, to be honest. But in Canada, not only are they few and far between, some of them are shut down. It might see it on a map, but they're gone or they're locked up. Some of them have special cards you need, and then other ones, they may close at 5 p.m. So it's not as plentiful and as fluid as what we experience in the United States, where gas stations are pretty much 24/7. So know that. Know where your gas stations are at. These books will help you with that. This one definitely. This one will show you the gas stops, and that bigger one I had out earlier. Oh, the milepost will show you about gas stops also. Bear spray. It's a wise thing to have it once you get into Canada and Alaska, especially these remote roads. The thing about bear spray is that it's very expensive in Canada, But if you buy it in the United States and you're bringing it into Canada, I believe you need to declare it, and it has to be specifically for bears, and it has to be like U.S. approved or something. So I did buy a $30 can of it, and I will declare it at the border. But you can buy it in Canada, and hopefully there's no issues. They don't like mace. And here's the thing: what I found out, the personal mace, the small ones that people use for personal defense against an attacker, a human being, it has a higher concentration of whatever that pepper spray chemical is than the bear spray does. The bear spray is a bigger can, and it shoots farther, and it makes a louder noise, but it is not as detriment chemical-wise as the mace. So the reason why is because they don't want the bears getting. They say that the spray itself and the sound of it will freak the bear out, and the bear will leave. But that's why. That's why they're thinking, well, why are they taking my mace? It's a little thing of mace. But if you go with bear spray, it's got to be more powerful. No, the chemical content in the bear spray itself is not as powerful as the small handheld ones that we see all the time in the U.S. So I got that. Talk about car insurance. So motorcycle tires, I already touched on. A lot of people that ride the motorcycles will say, hey, you're going to go through at least a set. My plan is I'll run these 70/30s down. For those that 70/30 means the tread is designed to be 70% road and 30% off-road. They're fine to ride, they're comfortable. I will wear those down by the time I get to Fort Wainwright. I put on my knobbies. The knobbies, which are more aggressive, chunky tires, they're going to be on from Fairbanks out to Purdue Bay, back to Fairbanks, I'll have them down to the National Park in Denali. Then I'll take that Highway 8, which is like a miniature version of the Dalton. And then I'm riding that all the way to Whitehorse back into Canada, and I've already made pre-arrangements to go back to 70/30 Kendas at a motorcycle shop. So they're going to take off the knobbies, I'll put that on, and the rest of the 3,000 miles I'll be on better tires. Weather. So when I was a medevac flyer for the Air Force, I would fly into Eielson and Elmendorf quite often. And Elmendorf is in Anchorage, Eielson is in Fairbanks. I've been there for summer solstice and winter solstice. So like the night of the land of the midnight sun or something they call it. But when I was there during the summer solstice, the sun goes down. Just you can still see the illumination. It goes down from about, not even down, it just kind of cruises down and then it climbs back up within the hour. So I recommend, if you're doing tent camping, put a little blind, those little travel blinders on to block the sun. But weather-wise, I have a weather radio on, and my GPS also pulls in weather. They say, all bets are off, if even during the summer, that prepare to get wet and prepare to get into freezing temperatures. That's why I ended up buying a -10-degree sleeping bag, which is down there. So just make sure you're up on the weather, and just once again, Fahrenheit, Celsius, be aware of that. Talked about solstice. Auxiliary batteries, extra batteries, little battery packs. Make sure you got a few of those. I think I'm carrying 3 of them, and they're getting the technology. They're making these things smaller but more powerful. So whatever their range is, I got one that's like 10,000 something, and another one that's like 20,000 something, and they're about the size of a wallet or like half the size of a cell phone these days. I would carry a few of them. I can charge them in motion while I'm here, while I'm riding. My USB ports will recharge them, but some of the campsites won't have them. Of course, I can charge my cell phone, but I won't be able to charge some of the communication and cameras that I'm using while en route. So when I get back to my campsite, I'll plug them in. So make sure you bring some auxiliary batteries. The wildlife is plentiful. My idea is to observe at a distance. If they own the road, they own the road. I'm going the opposite direction. I have no interest in getting close to anything. That's part of the allure and part of the draw for this trip for everybody, is to see this wonderful wildlife, from birds to fish to bears to moose, all kinds. And I'm looking forward to that. You just got to be wise about it. You just got to be wise and respectful about the wildlife there. I was going to mention border crossings. I'm using the United States passport card, like the driver's card. I'm not bringing my blue passport book. All you need is, if you have it, I would recommend just bringing that. Looks like this. It's the size of a driver's license. It's the passport card. And if you're doing anything other than air travel, you can go to and from Canada on land or sea. But if you're going to get in the air, you're going to need a passport book. So I'm going to bring in the passport card. Credit cards, I'm bringing a few. One wise thing to do, any card you bring, whether it's for ID or credit card, I always Xerox the front and the back, and I leave it with my wife. So in case I lose it, she has all the information of the cards that have been compromised or lost. I did that when I was in Europe and we needed it. Mosquitoes, oh my goodness. I was watching this one guy, a YouTube video. He's in Coldfoot, Alaska, which is the last fuel point on the Dalton highway. And you will always hear, I mean, mosquitoes are notorious all over Alaska, and they're killers, and not literally, but they're very plentiful in Coldfoot. Well, this guy's doing his video, and it's funnier than heck because he's putting up his tent, and he gets a really high-powered DEET mosquito repellent, but he rubs it on his face, and then he can't talk. He's talking, I'm not going to mimic him, but he's slurring his speech. It's like a guy that has just come out of the dentist, and he put the DEET on his face, and it numbed up. Like, he said he couldn't smell anything, his lips were all numb. So if you're using anything with DEET, which I have the 100% DEET powerful stuff, just use it on your extremities and maybe your collarbones down. And then I bought an organic insect repellent that doesn't have a chemical in it. I don't know how effective it is, but even with that one, it says put it around your face, but avoid your lips and anywhere near your eyes. But you can put it on your cheeks, your chin, your neck, and around the outside of your ears. So I have a specific cream, I'm doing that, and then the spray is for my body. But that guy, that was funny, man. I was looking at him, and he's trying to do a serious video. He's saying, I can't talk, I can't feel my lips. So just know, oh, and I also got the mosquito net. So I have a boonie hat that's in a lot of my videos. So it's similar to what we had in the military, although I never really used the mosquito net when I was in the military. So it just drapes over your face. I'm bringing 2 of them. So yes, bring a mosquito net, make sure you have mosquito repellent. And I'll talk more about that in detail on some of the products I'm bringing to prevent it and then to treat mosquito bites when I do get them, because I will get them. So I pretty much covered everything. Preparation, I didn't think I was going to get past 15 minutes, but I think I went into 20. Ask any questions that you'd like. There's going to be more. Like I said, this is Thursday night. Friday I'll talk more about the motorcycle, and then Saturday I'll talk about more about the gear I'm wearing. Now the gear I'm packing, because that bag has some of my Arctic gear in there, but the stuff that I'm packing, I probably will just go through that as I use it through the trip. So you see that my bike's really geared down. I did a review on my panniers earlier, so just know that I'm not going to do any of the specific gears between now and the time I leave. But as I use it, I think that'd be more appropriate time to do it, because then you get to see the gear and as it's being used in motion. One thing I will mention, I did buy it, and I can't remember the name of it, but it's a device, looks like a little stove. It hooks up onto those butane bottles. You turn on these little pads that go in there, and we tried it here in California, and it actually works. It shoots out a fume. Emanate. I don't know. I can't say the word now. Emanates a fume of some kind. You know, hold on. Let me see if I can dig it out real quick. So I forgot the name of it, but I made it really easy to get a hold of. So these are the pads. Oh, Thermacell. It's called a Thermacell. I've never did a product review of it, but it goes on the butane bottles. It's a really small handheld thing, but it goes on the butane bottles, ice, whatever, those little camp bottles. It goes on that, and man, I'm going on a half hour. I hope this was interesting, because I didn't think I was going to speak for a half hour, but I try to keep my videos to 15 minutes, but let me just shut it down and say I'll see you guys tomorrow night. I'll talk about individual products as I get to use them, but be prepared. You got to start doing this stuff. Watch the videos, not just mine, but if you're going and doing this long haul trip, start watching stuff now. There's more preparation on this trip than I've ever had in my life. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot for all my new viewers, the people I met at the Route 66 gas stations. Pleasure meeting you. Follow along on my journey. It's going to be all kinds of emotions, I'm sure. I'm going to do some really cool footage. My buddy's got a drone, and like I try to remind everybody, if you didn't do it yesterday, you probably didn't do it today either. So if there's something you want to do, you know, don't wait till tomorrow. Do it now. Do it now. If you didn't do it yesterday, don't put it off to tomorrow. That's why I'm doing this trip. Time is not guaranteed. We only have what we have. So thanks again for signing up. Like, subscribe, get out there and ride, and whatever your passion is, don't wait for tomorrow. Get to it. Bye, everybody.